So, this is at the Flight of Passage ride in Animal Kingdom. We are in this line trying to entertain ourselves, and there's a family a little bit in front of us. These tourists from China, I believe.
Yeah. I would guess China.
Yeah.
I don't know what language they were speaking because they were somewhat speaking in not English.
Yeah, can't tell if it was Mandarin or if it was something else.
But
So
they were Asian.
So the first thing that happens is they have two little kids with them. One, how old is that kid? Probably, it's hard to say.
I would
the age
say
of the Golden Side.
6 and 3
Yes,
are the ages out
6 and
kids.
3. Yes, exactly. Two brothers, and they are losing it.
And remember, it's not their fault. They're standing in this ride as long as we are. We were there for like 3.5 hours. It was a very long time. So yeah, these kids start losing it.
The first thing I remember is the garbage can thing.
Yeah. Well, can I say something first? So to summarize what you're about to hear quickly, my guess, and could be completely wrong. It seemed, and this is no offense to the parents, not that they're listening to this.
Well,
but I guess maybe a little bit. It seemed as if, they had, and this was just completely appearance based, but it seemed as if they were, traveling internationally and had, were pretty well off, and almost like they were, worked often, and they didn't really take care of their own children. It seemed like, it would have made more sense that they had a nanny or something there.
You get the
looking
sense
after the kids.
that they are used to having a nanny actually watch their kids for them.
So, to catch up to where Andrew's at, they were there for a while. They start getting very, very bored. And remember, we talked about, the turkey leg thing and how it's kind of gross. And theme parks are generally dirty places. I know that's something that's kind of changed with COVID, but this is very pre-COVID. So theme parks are very dirty places. And this kid is kind of running all over the place, like around the line. The parents have just absolutely no fucking clue what's going on. Like, they're not watching him. They don't care. So he's, at one point where it really starts kicking off, he's climbing on top of a garbage can.
Yeah.
That's in this ride. Like probably a very dirty amusement park.
It looked gross, and he's sticking his hands like through the slot because it flapped.
Yeah, like he's playing with this garbage.
So these kids are climbing on it, and then one of the kids like gets off, or he can't like get up there. So the dad picks him up and puts him back on the garbage can.
Yeah, like, here, kid, play with this garbage can so you don't bother me, kind of thing.
The next thing I remember is the
pee.
No. Before that. Before the pee, there was this. There's this part in the line. We're still going, and we're watching these.
You're talking about the climb?
Yeah.
The climb's after the pee.
No, I thought the climb's before the pee. Because the pee was right before the lab section of the.
No, but there's that. No, but there's 2 extra zings up, and they're the raised ones.
Okay.
And then you get into the lab. I'm pretty sure the next up is the pee.
No, because the pee, even if it is, I think it's better if that comes next.
Okay. So, go ahead.
So there's this part of the line where there's kind of these ramps. The line kind of ramps up. So there are ledges in between the levels of these ramps with just this very thin railing. The 3-year-old gets onto the ledge, and there's no space for him, but he is moving like this.
Yeah, like he's back against the ledge, or he's like flat with the ledge, climbing, and it's not high, but it's probably 5 feet.
Yeah, and he's a 3-year-old,
yeah,
so if he falls, it could do some serious damage. He's not very coordinated to do the stunt that he is attempting to pull off.
And people are just, like, everybody else now, at this point, in the line, is, like, this kid's trying to keep himself entertained. He's entertaining everybody else. Yeah. Every family in this line is watching him. And also slightly judging the parents because they're like, why is nobody taking care of the child?
Because these parents, it is almost like a movie scene where they are just literally looking up at the ceiling and like looking around at all the rocks and stuff, and everyone else is preparing to catch their child,
bracing
if this kid, God forbid, falls and hits his head.
So this is going on. Eventually the dad notices it and like grabs the kid off the railing and kind of pulls him back into place. So we continue to go. At this point, I would say we've probably been in the line for 2 hours. Like, it's been a long time.
Yes.
And you see that. Well, no, that was a different family. The family.
That was
a
different family.
So
yeah.
So we're about to enter, as Andrew said it, and it's what I would call it too. There's kind of, if you've ever seen the movie Avatar, you know there's like a lot of scientist shit going on. So it goes from kind of the outside world into like a lab area. Like it's like you're on Pandora, and now all of a sudden you're in a lab. And there's a lot of commotion going on, and we can't really tell what's going on at first. But it turns out that this little kid, this little 3-year-old, has to pee. And when you're in these rides, kind of a flawed system, but what are you going to do? You can't have people going in and out to go to the bathroom because the lines move. So their ultimate decision, I guess, probably to keep this kid from pissing himself. So this is probably something that we can't blame them for.
I think that
because the dad does leave to go look for a bathroom out like an alternative exit door, and they kind of leave it open so that he can get back in. No bathroom in sight. So they go into their travel bag, like their backpack that they were carrying their supplies around Disney in, and they pull out a plastic bag, a sandwich bag.
A Ziploc bag, yeah.
Yeah, a sandwich
See,
bag.
it was my understanding that the kid just started pissing in the corner, and then the mom quickly pulled out a Ziploc bag, and now this grown woman is on one knee in front of her 3-year-old son, attempting to catch his urine in a Ziploc bag so that he doesn't piss all over the Avatar line. And let me tell you something, she was doing a bad job.
That could be. So that makes it even. But I thought that the kids, and this is years ago. Maybe I just don't remember.
No, I'm telling you, this kid just started letting it flow.
So, I mean, again, it's tough to blame this on the little kid.
Yeah, but you know what? This is the one thing that woman did right, was she did. God bless her, try to catch the piss.
Yeah, she tried to catch the piss. So then the piss happens, and we're going through the line, and this is where it really starts to get great. There is...
Well, first we see the kid... Never mind, you tell this part. As a ghost, right? That's what I saw.
We're not there yet.
Yeah.
I'm gonna give it a little backstory. So, you know how large people at like amusement parks, and it's hot, they get really sweaty, and that's to nobody's fault. And sometimes they'll rock like a neck towel, just like a towel around their neck to kind of catch their big old neck sweat. I'm trying to make it a little gross, but not too gross, because that's, it's like a large person with a towel around their neck to catch their nasty ass sweat.
Yeah.
So somebody had a neck towel on, a sweat towel, and the ride, once you're in a ride like that, it's usually air conditioning. So this person took the neck towel off, left it on one of the rails, and moved throughout the ride freely, completely forgot about it. This little kid, the golden child, as we refer to him as, finds the neck towel and begins playing with it, and as Andrew said, is pretending he's a ghost.
So I turn around and I see this kid who I already am in love with all of a sudden he's got this big white towel draped over his face and his entire body, and he is walking around like, ooh,
his face,
ooh, just going like that, and I'm losing it. And then Matthew goes, "That's not his towel."
No, that's a sweat towel. I watched him grab a nasty sweat towel, and this little 3-year-old is just draping it over his mouth like he's having the time of his life. And like, I get that the towel was probably really fun, but I don't care if my kid wants to cry and throw a fit. I will never let him touch, let alone drape, a sweat towel over his face. So now it's like, we know these parents aren't paying attention.
Yeah.
This kid is having a free-for-all.
Here's what happens is they did take the towel away from him a couple times, and he grabbed it, but one time they took it away from him, and he started crying, and the mom just threw it back on top of him.
Just a chuck on just a little wrist flick, towel on the face. So now we're in the lab, and the lab is not that the previous like waiting areas aren't intricate, but the lab is, now you're getting close to the ride, it's very intricate.
All kinds of like props and stuff, right?
Yeah. So, but they're not accessible, right? You're kind of locked in by bars, railings
the
on
barriers,
both sides,
right?
Yeah.
Where the line is, and everybody knows you don't.
So it starts there's the head. There's a skull of a banshee. A banshee is an animal that lives in Avatar.
That like dragon flying thing. If you see the movie,
and it's a humongous ass skull, and it's in the ground on just one pole, like one pole directly on the center. And this little fucking kid is hands in the mouth of the banshee, like lifting. He's under the rails where he's not supposed to be, like lifting himself up from the front nose of the banshee, like hanging on this thing. And so he's making it very top heavy, and it is a huge like sculpture type thing held up by one pole. So it goes back to the railing situation, like the climbing situation, where these parents are not paying attention, and there is like 8 to 10 different groups of people literally ready to jump into action for if this giant sculpture begins to tip onto this child. Like that was probably the most dangerous thing that he did.
It absolutely was. This thing had very sharp teeth. It started wobbling. So then there's also this desk with like, a prop scientist desk, and these kids are climbing up it like a goddamn
all over
jungle
the desk,
gym.
like trying to go through the drawers and like going crazy. And this is right before you're in like the home stretch of where you get on the ride.
So now we get to the part where there's this young woman who works there, standing to separate people into like different groups, the end of the line. And this family comes up to her, and the 3-year-old is not big enough to get on this ride.
Not even remotely close.
She expresses this to the parents, who don't speak a word of English. And this young woman does not speak Cantonese or Mandarin, whatever language they might have been speaking.
So she's trying to explain this to them, that they can't get on the ride because of the child, and they're not going to just watch. They're not just going to sit there with the child while the parents go on the ride. While this is going on, as you would assume, the parents aren't watching the child. The fucking kid takes off like a bolt of lightning towards the ride. He is sprinting, and nobody, like the parents don't see it. Everybody else is watching this kid run, to the point where everybody else in the line for the ride is cheering, like yelling, cheering for this child who's on a full sprint away from his parents, just because of how funny it is. And we've watched this kid grow throughout this entire ride to gear up the freedom to see a stretch of like space where he can sprint into, and he took off. So we get sent like to get onto the ride, and it's down this long straight hallway, but we can see behind us that the poor young girl is still they got the kid finally.
Now
the poor young girl is still trying to explain to the parents
what's going on.
And at this point, the parents, after the last incident, still aren't paying attention to the child, but must have stuck the older brother in charge of the child. So the 3-year-old is laying on the ground, again, dirty ground, laying on his back. The older child, he was wearing a fedora. We should have mentioned that.
He was wearing a fedora.
The younger child is laying on the ground. The older child has this younger one by the ankles, dragging him around on his back like a mop through this, like, again, dirty floor at a ride in Disney World. And like everybody now is that nobody can take their eyes off this kid.
Here's the thing. Once everyone, and there's 100 people, probably a little less than that, realizes that the parents do not give a shit about this kid, we're all fully game, and we are like egging this kid on.
Yeah, we want the kid to do whatever
laps.
he can.
So, it was like a Little Rascals movie. So the kid is running around, and he gets right up to the line, and everybody's cheering him on. He goes on his back, and his brother comes in and then pulls him basically off stage, out of sight, to thunderous applause.
Yeah, so everybody's going crazy. So these parents, they brought somebody else in, like somebody higher than the girl that was working at the ride at the time, because she wasn't getting anything across. And so finally, we're just about to get on the ride. We're at like the last point where you could be, where you can still see where this was happening. And the parents get walked away, the kids get walked away. And right as we're about to get on the ride, all of a sudden, like nothing you've ever seen before, the little kid comes flying around the corner, running back up towards the ride. People are going crazy. People are sticking their arms out for high fives on the way by. Like, having a fucking riot, all thanks to this little kid. I've never seen a group of people that just waited in a ride line for 3 hours have a higher morale and sense of like community than we did with everybody around us because of the love that we had for this little child.
Think Beatles, Shea Stadium.
It was
Electric.
It was fucking awesome. So I hope that you guys can maybe close your eyes and listen to that story and imagine it how we saw it. It was one of the funniest things I've ever witnessed. That's why we call him the Golden Child, the man in the fedora. He's on to bigger and better things. I'm sure of it by now. Even though he's probably only 7 now. It's probably
doesn't matter.
No,
For the chosen one.
Yeah,
he can do it all.